This is a demonstration. Hmm, 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 hmm. So you want to judge people by their speech, or speech impediments, or dental problems, or lip degrees, or jaw muscles, or diction, or native accent. You know, does any of these things have any bearing on the content of the person's character? Note the engines in the back and the roar. Does this have any bearing on the content of the person's character, or the mental capacity of the person, or the intelligence of the person, or outintelligence, or whatever you want to call it? Does their speech, is it related? Do stupid people use stupid words? Not necessarily. I've seen people with large tongues. They sound just like those people who don't know the word and are pronouncing it wrong. It's just that they can't pronounce it right because their mouth is just not set up for it. Okay? Now, note the engine, note the roar of the engines in the back, and the interference. And now, does it have anything to do with their mental state? No. Case in point, I had a friend named Benji. Benji spoke Spanish, had a heavy, heavy Spanish accent. So heavy you would think he couldn't speak English. One day they impounded Benji's car, and Benji went down there to see that car. And the first thing they thought was, oh, he doesn't speak English good, he can't be too smart. Okay? Big mistake, because Benji was 10 times smarter than them. But because Benji didn't speak English perfect, they assumed he wasn't. And Benji got the best of him. He got his car, and so Benji won because they assumed he was stupid because of the way he talked. Anyone who does not speak this particular language well, it's supposed to be a reflection on your intelligence. So if you speak broken English, or you can't speak English well, or you don't know enough English words, you got a small vocabulary, then you must have a small mind. None of that is true. None of it is true. I know people who are I know very articulate idiots. You know, they could be an English professor, right? But they can't solve their problems no more than anyone else. They're not any smarter than anyone else. They can't control their children. They don't understand their son nor their daughter. Just like anyone else, a just because they have a high understanding of English and a high proficiency with it doesn't make them any greater than anyone else. They aren't any richer because they can speak better English. They aren't any smarter. They aren't anything. So where this came from, I don't know. I think it was back in some ancient racist type stuff back in the beginning of this criminally started country. I hate to say things out of context without explaining them. So I'm gonna try to keep from going off on a tangent because we're talking about diction and English. All right, but I have to speak about the nature of the place we're at now. English is the wrong word for this language. It should be called American because it's primarily spoken in America. They do not speak this language in England. All right, now let's go back. Basically, a run over. England came over here, saw this place. No matter what we offered them, their greedy butt wanted more. Then they wanted all. So they wanted to come over here and kill and take it. But they didn't have enough soldiers because they were already fighting a war. So what did they do? They told all the prisoners, you come over here and help us fight this war, and when the war is over, you're free. Right? Well, they did that, and they won, and they basically slaughtered all the Native Americans they could slaughter. And when it was so-called over, England said, hey, we won. You're free to go home to England a free man. They said, hey, we're not going anywhere. We're staying right here. This land is our land. Um, and we're willing to fight for it. And they end up fighting England and kicked England out, and they won. Okay? So now what you have is a bunch of criminals starting their own country. That's why it's a capitalist society. All right, and about money, and there will always be loopholes for criminals to get through the law, and on, no matter. And the law is best made by criminals, you know, who's an expert on law, on crime. See, so it's all been formed and forged by criminals. Now, back to the point at hand, English, which is really American. It's a made-up gumbo language in which anybody can throw a word in anytime they want to. And if you look up all the words, none of the words come from England. It's always from the German word this, or the Italian word this, or the Latin word this. None of them ever come from England. So how can it be English? You know? Now, so it's flawed. It has too many problems. If I say to you, if I write down the word R-E-A-D, you can't tell me if it's read or read. Okay? Now, if I say the word pear without a sentence, you can't tell me what I mean. You don't know if I mean two. You don't know if I mean um, a fruit. You don't know if I mean carving something. Understand what I'm saying? If I say wear, you don't know if I'm talking about a clothing article or a plastic thing or you know or where or tear. Um, anyway, the words don't work by themselves independently like other languages. It's not a legitimate language. See, in a legitimate language, all the parts work individually, like everything else in the world works by atoms or particles and stuff, and they all sustain themselves individually. They don't need the other to sustain them. Now, this language does not coincide with the natural order of things, so you know it's like recently man-made by sugar watered down so-called evolved people. But anyway, it's a new language, if you want to call it a language. I call it English because it has too many glitches in it. It just doesn't hold up. You know, I'm sorry to say that, you know. Um, if I say bear, you don't know if I'm talking about a big hairy creature, if I'm talking about being naked, or I'm talking about carrying something. You understand what I'm saying? The words don't work when you hear the sound. And sometimes when you see the word, it's the same exact word as another word, but it's spelled the exact same. And you don't know which one it is if you just see the word without a sentence. So it doesn't work by itself in individual parts. You have to use them in what they call in context. Well, so anyone could just make up a word in a year or two, that word will be in the dictionary. I don't doubt that doing the Dougie or the Stinky Leg has probably made it to the dictionary by now. You could damn sure Google it, and I know Wikipedia has it. So that means it has made it to the dictionary like so many other dances from since the twist or whatever. Um, wow. I wonder if other countries do that. Wow, man, I think it's time to quit smoking. The cigarette just simply just fell apart right in my hand as I was speaking to you. I mean, a perfectly good cigarette just started falling out of both ends. Um, um, anyway, so the way you speak, or well, no, not how you speak, But your command of English is no reflection on your character, your intelligence, your wealth, your potential, your anything but to speak English. Now, unless you're an English teacher or you're speaking, unless you're teaching English in some kind of capacity, I don't see what that's really good for. All right, we have a small segment of people claiming to be the majority, and I don't see how that's possible. See, let me explain how this breaks down. There is no such thing as a black or a white person. So you can't say white people speak English. There's no such thing as a white person. Not really. All right. Legally on the books, a white person is one of the original sovereign people of a land. All right, which means, hey, me being Native American, I'm white. Okay, and black is not a people. All right, there is no such people as black. Anyone calling himself black, the nature of the law and the game says that they can be held and owned and sold, bought and sold as property because there's no such people, so it can't be a person. It has to be an animal or something because there's no such people on record as black people. That's just the way the law is written out, just letting you know how people can have slave or had slave, how they can legally do it. You had to be called black, not Native American, or you had to be nowhere, nameless, countryless, not a non-person. Now, back to the language. White people speak English. No, wrong, because there's no such thing as white people. Now, Italians speak Italians, all right? And Greeks speak Greek. Germans speak German. I know about those groups, right? And when you break everybody down into the little group and add the little American to it, um, m- my group is the largest group in the country, and my other group is the second largest group in the country, and all those so-called white people are in a minority or something. Some people call Jewish Americans or something, a little small group, all right, compared to the billions, all right. Now, so they're the minorities. All these people who are from Sweden and Canada and all these places, because there is no group of white people for them to be a majority. There's no such people, all right? So in their proper group, they're all a bunch of little minorities. Native American outnumber them, and so do we. Uh, um, and so this language, English, for the little small, how often do you run across someone here from England? Really, honestly. How often do you run into a person from England here? All right. How many of these other people you run into? How many Asians you run into? Chinese, Japanese, or whatever. I don't like that Asian word, Oriental, or whatever. All right. How many Spanish speaking people? How many how many of these other people you run into? But how many people from England? All right. You meet Italians. You meet all kind of people. How many people you meet from England? You meet one or two or three in your life, maybe. And so the English being dominant language, or England's thought, or England, no, they were defeated and kicked out of here. We don't have to keep nothing that is England. It was supposed to be killed hundreds of years ago. I don't know who messed up. All right, they couldn't find something to replace it or something. I don't know, but it doesn't fly now. I'm not gonna let a bunch of primitive people who pee in pots and carry it down to the river and pour it out make the rules for me today in the 21st century. They didn't know what I know. They can't go where I can go. All right, they couldn't go where I go. All right, they didn't even have the roads and the streets. All right, so I can't let them, smart as they may have been. That would be like me letting a child run my life as an adult. What do I mean? If you make a decision when you're 14, and you're a grown person saying, I've been doing this all my life, I'm not going to change now for you. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been doing this forever. I'm not going to change for you. You know what you're saying? Whatever age you were when you made that decision, you're letting that child or that young person run your adult life now. Now, would you let a 19-year-old kid make your decisions for you right now? That's what you're doing when you go by a decision you made way back when you were 19 and you're still sticking to it. That's in the books. That's not from me. That's almost what you call common knowledge. It's been written over and over by everybody who want to write a self-help book. But anyway, back to English. Um, oh, I hate supposed to mean cut, edit that out. I hate people who talk and use the word and especially repetitively. So you so excuse me every now and then if I you know, but I hate it. I'll try to edit it out if I can, 'cause that's an irritating sound. Okay, back to the point at hand. English doesn't work. It's not the right word, not the right name, no such thing. Um, it can't be the right name. None of the words come from England. We're not in England. Why are we speaking English? And we're in America. You know, we can even come up with our own language called states. We can do whatever the hell we want. All right. Now, so I thought I'd throw that point out about people going around with English and perfect English being the goal and being measured by it and getting and deciding whether they get employment or not by their command of English, trying to deciding being judged and stereotyped by their command of English, and being looked down upon as lesser people because they don't have command of this fictional language. um, it's just another mental problem. And I have to make this note because I've been steady talking about mental problems and stuff, and I have to keep telling you I'm not talking about people with physical brain damage. That's not a mental illness. It is an injury. It is a birth defect or injury. Okay, it's not an illness. An illness is something you catch, something that comes from outside. All right, and let me tell you how your mental illnesses are spread by mouth. Your communication is thought of as a disease by some. They don't even want to talk to you. And you see these things and you hear tales of them, but you're wondering why they not talking to you because you're like a walking disease. That's how your thoughts are like a bunch of sores in flowing in a sea of pus. But anyway, the language is overrated. Talking is overrated. Your opinion is overrated. In a conversation about what is, opinions mean nothing. A tree is. How you feel about that tree is your opinion. Now, surround the tree and everybody throw their opinion out. It. You can hate the tree, you can wish the tree was red, you can think the tree is this, you can do whatever, but it's going to have no effect on the tree. So, your opinion has no effect on is or what you mistakenly call reality. Okay? It has no bearing on it. It has no effect. It doesn't pertain to it at all. It's just the rambling of a mind that you want to share your thoughts. But it has no value and carries no weight or atomic impact at all in this world. At most, it's bad breath, carbon dioxide. The tree appreciates it, though. Don't get it wrong. The tree appreciates it. Now, so English can't be all that because words aren't all that, and your words especially. And remember this fact: everything is real except the thoughts in your head and your words. They're not real. They're not made of substance. Okay. Now, and note, fact: current president is President Donald Trump. I remember him making a statement about Mexico doesn't even like us. And if you haven't checked lately, neither does England. England, snotty ass England, does not like us with their nose up in the air. Even in their movies, they have nothing but sarcasm for us, cynicism. Get a blues clue, dude. They're not your friend. They're still bitter. Calling yourself and naming yourself after them. Are you an idiot? So don't call or name yourself after them unless you're an idiot. England doesn't even like us.